And we're back. Liverpool 2, Chelsea 1. Liverpool stayed top of the Premier League. So here's 4 talking points from tonight's game at Anfield. Number 1, we're going to kick it off talking about Curtis Jones. That's a great place to start. Curtis, I think, was the closest thing we had tonight to a midfielder who was trying to control the game, which is obviously something that we miss when Alexis McAllister isn't part of the lineup. I think Slot would choose McAllister in a side 9 times out of 10 because he's such a perfect player for how he wants to play football. McAllister obviously not available to start and play 90 minutes today. Curtis gets the nod and he took his chance. He got his chance and he took it. Not quite playing in a double pivot. He was a kind of a 6'8", sitting in when necessary, making runs when necessary. And he was fantastic. But he added that end product to his game, which not only do we want to see from him, but we want to see it from Liverpool's midfield players. Full stop. You know, it's great to see, you know, passing stats. It's great to see, you know, all these bits of data which prove how great they are, or we see nice touches, or they're getting involved in the game. But if they can add goals and assists and get involved at the business end of the pitch, then I think that's what we want to see. We want to see from slubbers like McAllister and Jones. And Jones delivered tonight. He got his chance. He obviously was involved in the 2 penalty decisions. One got overturned, which I think might have been the right decision. I watched it a bunch of times. I still can't quite make my mind up. But he was involved at that. He was involved in the actual penalty, which Salah dispatched. I think that's a good indication for some of the good things he did in the game and getting himself into those dangerous central positions. And for the goal, it was absolutely fantastic. First off, brilliant ball from Mo. And it's not often we see this from a Liverpool midfield player, like these kind of runs from deep. And to see Curtis do it, absolutely brilliant. The first touch is obviously a little bit rough, but what is brilliant about this goal, apart from the run and the timing of the run, is the finish. Because, you know, as I say, the first touch, not ideal, but he has that creativity to improvise in these tight situations where he ends up taking on his right foot and hooking the ball. He's much more comfortable on his right anyway, but to do that in that kind of split second instance, I thought was a really creative bit of improvisation from Curtis. The kind of downside of it wasn't just about McAllister not being there and Liverpool maybe not having a full element of control of the game. Part of that was down to, I think, Chelsea playing pretty well and lots of good individual players for Chelsea, but also the conditions at Anfield, you know, kind of difficult, all that wind, which both teams have to play in there, but it certainly affected things like, you know, Kelleher's distribution, or even Trent's distribution there. Trent playing in a much more reserved, much more traditional fullback kind of role tonight. He had a good little duel there with Neto in the second half as well. I thought that was kind of good to watch. But yeah, he was playing much more as a traditional number 2. So yeah, I would say the conditions did have an effect on maybe how Liverpool were playing there. But it was getting back to Curtis Jones, brilliant performance. He got his reward. He got his player of the match. Got his winning goal. Absolutely fantastic. Made up for him. Let's see if he can push on and maybe put a run of 2 or 3 games together where he's putting in these kind of performances, where he's, you know, winning balls in midfield and making these runs beyond and grabbing goals, grabbing assists, all this kind of stuff. Whether he can do it, I don't know. I'd like to think he can because I like him a lot. I think he's a really good player. I think really highly of him. And I think the stick that he gets is really uncalled for. And, you know, he gets a lot of stick on social media, and I guess just saying that sentence kind of is enough, really, because what happens on social media is just poison, isn't it? So I think those kind of, you know, those Twitter reds who give Curtis Jones stick should maybe have a little look at the football knowledge tonight and maybe reevaluate things a little bit. So that's Curtis. I think talking points number 2, I'm going to talk about your man Darwin Nunes. What a mad game for Nunes. There's lots of really, really good parts of this game. And for a lot of it, I was really, really impressed with Nunes. I mean, for instance, he comes on after, like 25 minutes or so, whatever it was, when Chelsea were in the ascendancy, really, Liverpool really struggling to get a foothold on the game, get control of the game. Nunes comes on, a player that you would not really associate with the word control, unless you're saying lack of control, because he obviously is traditionally chaotic and wild and what have you. But he came on and he helped Liverpool get a bit of a foothold in the game. he was playing pretty deep. Usually when we see him, he can be quite isolated, like as the fulcrum of the attack, and we're seeing him straying offside, and we're seeing him getting frustrated and not getting touches to the ball. He was getting himself tonight in some really good positions. Deeper, he was having some hold up number 9 play, which I've never seen him really do before. There was a couple of times when he got the ball and he held it up. I was like, wow, I want to see more of this, And there was a few silky touches as well. So a really good through ball. I think it was to Gakpo not long after he came on. So, I mean, he faded a little bit in the second half, but there was lots of really, really encouraging parts of his game. Maybe he's kind of, the penny's dropping. Maybe Slot is asking different things of him. I don't know, but there was enough there to think, wow, maybe there's something to be salvaged from Darwin Nunes at Liverpool this season. It was really good. However, you get to about 65 minutes or so when the game started to become a little bit wilder. There's, the atmosphere went up a little bit. There's a few fouls going in there. And I don't know whether it's coincidence or not, but this is like the moment where Darwin Nunes kind of loses his head a little bit. He started to get into these individual battles with Chelsea players, which seem to be completely, adjacent to the narrative of the game. It's almost like these players have spilt his pint and he's staring them out, or it's really strange aspect of his game where he kind of loses the plot a little bit. And as I say, the wider story of the game just seems to have no bearing on these individual battles that he's entering in. It was a little moment there. I don't know if it was Caicedo broke through, and it looked like Darwin Nunes was about to foul him from behind. And you think, well, there's your second yellow, there's your red card. But it didn't quite happen. And he got away with that just. I don't know whether there's something in his brain just like kind of saved him at the last moment, and he decided not to fly in. But it was a strange performance from Darwin. Some good, some bad, but as I say, enough positivity in there to think, right, let's see what he can do. Maybe let's see what he can do against depleted Arsenal backline next weekend. He might have to, depending on what happens with Diogo Jota, he might be playing regardless, but it was interesting. So point number 3, top of the passive start Liverpool had. Liverpool, I think, maybe started off trying to play probably the most Arne Slot version of themselves possible. I think where it was all about maybe holding back and having a bit of control, trying to control where Chelsea moved the ball, trying to control where Chelsea moved into space. It didn't quite happen because Chelsea were really good but turned in a decent performance with lots of good individual players. And because we started there in second gear, I think we found it really difficult to kind of move up a little bit. It was so easy to play through the middle for Liverpool. It needed to be more compact. Szoboszlai was maybe not great in what he should have been doing there. We struggled at times there. As I said previously, ironically, it was the introduction of Darwin Nunes which enabled us to get a bit more of a foothold in the game. I think that was a bit of a warning there for Slot and Liverpool, is that when you're playing at home against a big rival there, maybe this kind of more cerebral way of playing, maybe it doesn't do you that many favours. Maybe you just need to use that power of Anfield to kill off opponents early doors. There's something to be learned. Maybe there's a middle ground there, I don't know, but that's something that I think hopefully Arne Slot can look at and learn from. So fourth and final talking point from tonight, I'm going to talk about Mo Salah. I thought he was all right tonight. I thought he played pretty well. Obviously he's involved in the 2 decisive moments of the game. The keeping the nerve as ever, Mr. Cool for the penalty, and that brilliant ball over into Curtis Jones for the winning goal. I think it was his 271st Premier League game today, and it was his 162nd goal. Now that moves him up into 9th place in Premier League all-time goal scorers list, level with Jermaine Defoe. He needs one more to move up to level 8th with Robbie Fowler, and then I think it's Thierry Henry who's next in his sights. I think it's great to see Salah. And you might think, it's only a penalty scored, but he's scoring goals. He's the man who can keep those numbers up. He's the man who can have that little bit of creativity, little bit of genius when you need it against this calibre of opposition. And we haven't done well against your top 6 sides, or however you describe them. We didn't do well against them last season. We struggled in recent years against them, so it's good to see a player with a big personality like Mo Salah to step up when it's necessary and just to deliver those decisive moments. And that was brilliant to see. Who knows how many more we've got before he goes? We don't know. So I encourage everyone to just enjoy them while they're here. Make the most of it, because you're watching a legend right now in our lifetime. So that's great to see. So I think, I'll run through some player ratings really quickly. Kelleher 6. I think he couldn't really stop the goal. Struggled with his distribution. A lot of that is down to the conditions at Anfield there. So but that is what it is. Robbo 6. I think he's struggled in the first half there. He had a little battle down the left. I think he grew into the game. Virgil and Canate both 8. I thought they were really good. Trent a 7, a bit more of a reserved performance from Trent. We didn't really see him moving into midfield much. Maybe that's a positive, maybe it's a negative. I think he did his defensive duties first and foremost. I thought he'd done well. Gavin Burke 7, involved in the dirty parts of the game there. We did see him break away once, but it was a bit more of a defensive performance tonight than the kind of all action, starting attacks and what have you. Curtis Jones 8, obviously scored goal, involved in 2 penalty shouts there. Szoboszlai 6. I wouldn't say he struggled, but he didn't really impose himself on the game there. He didn't really do a lot of creative work. A few more important defensive pieces there. A lot of running there, but I think you need a little bit more from your creative midfield player. Mo Salah 8. Obviously, he was involved in the 2 decisive moments in the game, so that's got to count for something. Cody Gakpo 6. Struggled to really impose himself on the game. Did all right, but he just couldn't really make the most of the space he had whenever it did open up. Had one really, really good opportunity, which he knows he should have done better for. Jota 6, maybe he would have been involved in a little red card incident there. But he was unlucky to pick up an injury. I think he struggled to shake that off when it happened. Darwin comes on. He's a 7 for me, and then McAllister and Diaz, I think maybe both 6s there. So I think it was a good night for Liverpool. Not what you'd say is a vintage performance, but they did what they had to do to get through the game. I think it was interesting to see that Chelsea had more possession and more touches, more passes, something that we wouldn't have expected before the match, regardless of the result. I think we would have really expected Liverpool to have those kind of stats and Chelsea to play more on the counter-attack. It didn't happen. I think, again, that's going to be a little bit of a useful lesson in life in the Premier League for Arne Slot, but Liverpool did enough to get through it because they had the players that made that difference. And tonight, those players were Mo Salah and Curtis Jones. Brilliant stuff. Next up, Leipzig, and then the big one next weekend against Arsenal. Disappointing to see City get all 3 points today. That's another story there with that goal that should have got disallowed, but that's a whole different thing. You can't really count on other teams losing. You've got to do the business yourself, and Liverpool did it tonight, and hopefully they'll do it next week against Arsenal. Right, up the Reds. Here we go. Enjoy tonight.